All right, welcome to this Melee It On Me special edition. We're kind of throwing together a poor man's version here without Scar. I'm joined by Sheridan, aka Dr. Z, and Daniel, aka Tafokins.
Sup
And
with it.
yeah, what's up? I'm not gonna do the sup with it because I
Sup with
caught myself.
it?
No, I can't do it because I caught myself doing that once at like EVO, and Scar called me out on it, and I was like, oh, that's Scar's brand. I can't do it. So
All right.
right now we are watching the iPlay Winter stream, and the Fray is what it's called. Mr. Wizard is apparently announcing the EVO 2014 lineup tonight, which was supposed to be on Tuesday night, but due to circumstances or some reasons that we don't really know, it got moved to.
He was trying to get home from the Super Bowl and his plane got canceled or something like
I
that.
don't get it. So he was in New York for the Super Bowl all the way until Tuesday, and then chose like the worst day when there was like a bunch of snow to fly out.
I don't know, man. But anyway, we're watching the stream right now, and they just started doing the announcement, and they announced UMBC3, and it looks like they're going to be spending a little bit of time talking about it, so we'll have some time to,
Yeah,
I guess, talk a little bit about what we think's going to happen. So
Sure.
I guess I don't know what they're going to announce next. I mean, obviously we all expect Street Fighter 4 AE to be the other obvious game. So I don't know if they're going to do that next, or if they're going to do a surprise next, or what. But
So I personally, I'm an FGC noob as always. Like I haven't really been following. Are there any games that were already confirmed before tonight for EVO 2014?
I don't think anything's been confirmed. But
I heard something about Ultra Street Fighter being confirmed, but I don't know if that was just a rumor or if that was actually an official thing.
I would suspect something like Blaze Blue. I feel like that's picking up traction. How about an attacking game of some sort?
Right. So I am locked out of that iPlay Winter stream. For some reason I can't watch two streams at once or something. It's just kind of doing that circle loading thing on my computer. So I'm gonna need like.
They've been showing footage of Street Fighter 4, so I'm presuming that they just announced that too.
Okay.
So those are the two obvious ones.
We should. Okay, we're gonna rely on the chat. I think that's a pretty reliable source.
Yeah.
People in chat are multi-twitching. I don't know.
Twitter feed is also really useful right now.
Yeah.
Twitter feed. Yeah.
So,
oh yeah, John's got that sweet Twitter feed in the top left. I didn't even notice that. So that's pretty cool.
Oh yeah, we should give a shout out to Indie Dave who just subscribed not too long ago. Thank you for subscribing.
Indie Dave, what's up? Thanks for subscribing and donating
to the family.
The Scar's monthly financial intake. Some of which goes to the Scarduzio Newman Fund for their wedding. Some of which goes to Mango. Nobody knows.
Some goes to the blog, I hope.
All right, they're announcing the third game.
What were the first two?
Ultra Street Fighter 4.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, it might be Melee.
I see. Okay, I'm willing to bet. So I see Melee in the chat. I can see the chat, but not the stream. This is really frustrating.
Oh,
it's
no,
like
it's
watching
Injustice.
Injustice. Okay.
Wait, no, they're. Yeah, it's Injustice.
What was that Melee National where there was like a
Injustice.
stream?
Yeah.
And there was a chat, but there was literally no stream output. I feel like it was one of the ROMs, and everyone was just huddled around the stream with somebody giving like.
I don't know.
Stream
chat.
Commentary.
Just
D1
updating
was
it
giving
on
commentary.
the stream.
It was either D1 or Prague or both. I can't remember.
So there.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on that? Do you guys think companies are able to buy their way into EVO as Injustice? Like, it kind of looks like they did last year, right? Because we had our 8 games, and then all of a sudden Injustice kind of just popped out of nowhere at the 9th game.
I don't know how much I want to speculate about that, but let me ask you this. Do you think that's necessarily a bad thing, or do you think maybe it indicates that these companies are finally starting to take an interest in the competitive scene?
I don't know. Like, it's there's so many ways to approach it. There's so many angles to it. Like, what is best for EVO, right? Obviously, like we can say what
Right.
is best for EVO and be like, they should do this and that for the Melee community. They should be in the best interests of all the fighting games. But
Wait, fourth game.
yeah, but like I feel like EVO is a business at the end of the day, so they have to take care of, what they need to take care of too. All right,
Oh,
we
King of
have
Fighters. King of Fighters.
King of Fighters. That's 4 so far. Is that 5?
4.
4.
Kind of worried.
If he does it, I bet it's gonna be the last one, just to.
Dude, he's gonna troll
fuck
us.
with
I
us.
swear.
Yeah, fucking Mr. Wizard, dude.
I personally left during Injustice, though. I heard it was just Superman versus Superman, but I could be
I think
really nice.
I think everyone left during Injustice last year on the Melee side of things. That was our
Dude,
dinner break.
I don't know about. We were talking earlier, but I really enjoyed watching King of Fighters before Smash.
Absolutely, I was there for
And,
King of Fighters. He was great.
Yeah, Reynold with his shades was pretty balling pretty hard.
Is he from NorCal?
I don't know actually.
I think he's from California. I want to say. But yeah, he's such a character. I I really liked seeing him on stage and with his antics. I'm able to view the stream now.
So, with that question that I'd asked you about whether companies can buy their way into EVO,
Yeah.
I read an article earlier today by Ultra David, about kind of the history of esports versus the FGC and why esports has become the phenomenon it has, whereas FGC and Smash are kind of more a homegrown type of affair. And it was I'll try to link it in chat if I can find it. And
Yeah.
I think we're getting another announcement now.
It
I
looks
think
like
it'd be
Killer
a
Instinct.
good addition. Scar messaged me saying he is ultra busy. So it looks like we are scarless for this episode.
Okay.
This dumbed down MIOM special featuring not Scar. R.I.P. Scar. And R.I.P.
Alright,
Tope.
Killer Instinct is game number 5.
Killer Instinct. Okay.
Interesting.
How many games do you think they'll go to? You don't think it's gonna reach
think they're
9
doing
like last year?
I think they're doing 8. I'm not sure.
I figured 9 is kind of like the maximum that it's ever gonna get from last year, right? They usually do maybe 6, something like that, somewhere around there.
I think it's going to be 7 or 8. Anyway, I hope
Anyone have-
do you know about why Killer Instinct was a bad competitive game the first time around?
I'm an FGC noob. You're gonna have to explain everything to me.
It basically turned into rock paper scissors because
A lot of
Combo
50
breakers.
you know combo breakers, right?
Yeah.
Getting out of a combo was basically rock paper scissors. So the metagame was
Right. Just kind of like turn into degenerate gameplay.
right.
Hmm.
So hopefully they've fixed that. I don't know. Is this still a rare developed game?
I don't know, dude. I don't know these things. John's saying he doesn't think so. I don't know if the stream can hear John. Okay. Mr. Arian Fatia is on. What? Okay, how do you pronounce his last name? I think it's
I don't know.
Fatia.
Alright,
We're gonna ask him. Side bet.
Fatih.
I think it's Fatia. All right.
All right.
Mr. Wizard's such a troll, dude. I hope is he a Denver Broncos fan or a Seahawks fan?
I have no idea.
I hope he's a Broncos fan. I want him to suffer for trolling us like this. What's up, Arian? Are you in the chat? Are you in the call? Can't hear him if he is.
What's up?
What's up, dude?
What's up? I haven't missed anything good yet, so that's good.
We have 4 games announced and no Melee yet, so we're still
Six,
kinda
six
stuck
games
there.
now.
6
BlazBlue.
games? Oh my god, that's not good.
We're fine.
Arian, you're one of the people who said Melee was like a complete lock for EVO, man. What is
Dude,
going on right now?
this is
Explain
a
this to me.
This is a coronation. Just calm down. Calm your jets. It's a coronation. We're fine.
I'm the pessimist. I asked everyone, did an informal straw poll. Everyone's like, yeah, 90% chance we're in.
I think I predicted 70%.
70? Yeah, I was like 60%-ish, because you can't forget about the big N. Like, Nintendo's always watching. That's how I feel. And we still, like, dude, after all this time, we still haven't had, like, any sort of acknowledgement from Nintendo. We had, like, that fiasco with Triforce saying he was going to get Nintendo to, like, make some sort of announcement. That never happened. MLG still, from what I've heard, has not even, gotten the approval from Nintendo, and who
Right.
knows about EVO? We're about to find out, right?
So BlazBlue is the game that they just announced.
If Lost Blue is there, that means that they're going for a larger set of games. Is what I'd suspect. I thought they'd go for this, like after seeing especially what SCR did with 20 games. I'm not surprised that they're going to have a lot of games this year.
SCR has 20 games. Is that like a new record? That's got to be a new
Holy
record.
shit!
I've never heard of anything. I've never heard of anything quite like it.
20 games. That makes Apex look like child's play.
Well, what I'm trying to say with that is that even though like they haven't announced this yet, we're probably in the beginning of the list. Like I mean, like there's still probably a bunch left that he has to announce.
Wiz is about to say something.
All right. I wish this chat would stop. Oh.
He's asking about Melee.
He's talking about Melee.
Yeah.
Is he? Okay.
I'm just gonna shut up.
All right. Now, before we go further, there are a few conspicuous aspects.
Did he just say there is a spot?
Yes.
Exceptionally well in the
Said currently there is a spot for Super Smash Bros. Melee, but I don't know what that is. That tentative? Or is that a lock?
Oh, hold on. Okay, so spot is there. We just need Nintendo to make a decision.
They need Nintendo.
So it comes down to the big N again, right? Like,
Oh
Yeah.
my god.
I was kind of afraid this would happen. But like, it's good to have a confirmation that EVO, they want us in. They're like, yeah. If everything, like with Nintendo works out, yeah, you guys are in. You guys have a spot. So I kept saying, like you see on the agenda, there's the probability that EVO wanted to include Melee, and then there's the probability that
This is exactly
Nintendo.
what I said last week,
Right?
if I remember.
So like,
It's all going to
Melee's
be up to Nintendo.
Melee's chances of getting into EVO 2014, I feel like might as well be equivalent to Nintendo's chances of allowing EVO, to stream Melee.
Yeah.
And
Oh god.
Arian, what you said, like the lock, I was like, yeah, I agree with you. It's a lock that EVO wants Melee in, but I'm talking about Nintendo here. Like, that's not a lock, and it looks like they still haven't made contact, which is like really, really kind of disheartening to me to hear, honestly.
I'm so happy I didn't buy champagne. I was actually planning on going to buy champagne before this. It sucks, dude. It sucks.
What are we supposed to do, dude? What are we supposed to do with this information?
It's the eternal struggle, man. If it wasn't a struggle, would we feel that good about it when we, get our prize?
Oh, that's bullshit, dude. We had our struggle, and it was the donation drive last year. I don't want to struggle anymore.
The greater the glory,
And you know what the sad thing about this is that, of course, this is essentially another donation drive. We're going to have to go on Twitter. We're going to have to go on Facebook. We're just going to have to do it to Nintendo instead of EVO, right? Like, it's not really that different. But and the thing is, we're going to have to do it in the nicest, most politically correct way possible when all of us deep down are kind of, we're pissed about it. We're going to have to be very politically correct about it and say, Nintendo, please give us this opportunity, blah, blah, blah.
Okay, but can I just say that,
moments, man. We gotta
like last year, I had the same fear when the Nintendo Stream crisis first hit, I was like, there's no way this social media campaign is going to take off in the way that we need it to take off because people are just going to bash Nintendo. That's what I thought. But then I was like really pleasantly surprised at how people listen to us saying like, we need to frame this in a way where Nintendo sees, the good things that we've done with the donation drive and everything, and just not just aimlessly bash them for their decision.
We have
So I was really impressed by that, and yeah,
I'll pay $100 to a person that can make a 2-minute video highlighting the Melee community.
Yo.
Tafo, don't just throw money.
You need to think this through.
Come on.
You need to think this through, bro.
Tafo is digging
You're gonna
into
get
his Tian fund already, man.
You're gonna get a bunch of shitty videos, a couple good ones, and then you're gonna be responsible for sifting through all that crap and picking the right one. And everybody is gonna hate whatever you choose just because. And all the people that you didn't pick are gonna whine at you and complain on the Facebook group for weeks. Is this what you really want?
Well, Tian paid for it.
Oh, God.
I'm just messing.
Dude,
Oh my God.
Every time Tafo enters the tournament from now on, I should be like, oh, Tafo, give me your venue, give me your entry fee. He's like, oh, okay, sure. Let me get it from my Tian stash. Just bring out the envelope.
Yo, I've already gotten my share of the Tian money. I got that free fat sandwich from Apex.
Oh, okay.
I'm already feeling the wealth being shared by the Tian fund.
Yeah, I think that one thing that's good about the ways we're gonna have to do this is that we're gonna probably do it mostly through Twitter, and like you guys said, Twitter since it's based on followers in order to get retweets and recognition. It's usually a little bit more filtered than like YouTube comments and more trolly stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think people will be good about it. It's just we have a few advantages and disadvantages now. It's because last time we at least had like a fundraiser and breast cancer and all these good positive vibes that I think any regular gamer would have been on our side, right? But now we don't have that advantage. But the advantage we do have is we have A, that history, and B, we also have we're just bigger now. We're way bigger now than we were just a year ago. So it's weird. We're gonna have to do this all over again.
You said, or it was either you or someone else in the Facebook group. You said that Melee is the biggest fighting games community right now. And I was like, wait, really? Is that actually true? Like someone else was like, we're top 3, maybe nowhere near Marvel and Street Fighter. And then other people are like, yeah, Melee's the biggest one right now. So there's no way EVO's gonna exclude us just based on the numbers.
Okay, so I found. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. I was just gonna comment on that, but go on.
Oh well, I was just saying. I mentioned a Ultra David article that I had read earlier today about esports versus the fighting game community and why those communities have taken the different paths that they have. And I found it, and I just wanted to post it in chat. It was pretty long, but it was a really good read, so check it out. It was actually written like 2 years ago, so
I will copy and paste into the agenda. Yeah.
Yeah. There was actually one other article I read that was more recent, but I haven't found that yet.
There was a really good article on Polygon recently too about like basically lauding the FGC, which I thought that was new. I think our critical mass and stuff like that, we've always had that on our side, like from the start. Even back in 2007 and before then, I think Melee has been the biggest game in the FGC for many years. It's just when Street Fighter 4 came out that it kind of tilted the balance again, and then we kind of reclaimed it more recently. So it's not really about our population and what numbers we'll bring. It really is about Nintendo, and as sad as that is. So we just got to figure it out.
I'm like, yeah, sorry, Sheridan, go ahead.
When you say biggest game, though, you mean biggest individual game. Because, obviously the FGC, it's hard to really directly compare Smash to one particular game in the FGC, I guess, because there's so much crossover between games.
Yeah.
So, we're all Melee players first, right? But the people in the FGC, they may, go back and forth between what's their main game or main game. So it's hard to put them down as belonging to one specific game or another.
Yeah,
So
no, that's a
I
good
mean,
point.
I do think we have to be among the the biggest, but it's just a question of how you measure. Specifically, like Street Fighter and Marvel would be the only ones really to.
I think it's easiest to say the biggest dedicated community because I agree that entrant count gets shared a lot. In terms of unique players, we bring in the most, which is really important for multi-game events like this because you add a game like, BlazBlue and you have Persona there, you're probably sharing a vast majority of the entrants between them.
Yep.
Whereas you add Melee, you're literally multiplying your size by 1.5 times at least, right?
Exactly.
So it's a big difference that we have, and that's a good thing for us, and that's the thing that works in our favor. But I don't think the EVO organizers don't want us back. I don't think that's been an issue ever, really.
Yeah, like the interests and like the qualifications, I guess if you want to call it, like the like proving we belong. I think that's all been taken care of. It's just like this last stupid obstacle. It's always Nintendo, and
Yeah.
like I don't know how about you guys, but I'm like pretty shocked, and I'm pretty shocked that they haven't been able to, still get this, ironed out with Nintendo because they had the contact, right? Like the Nintendo Stream Crisis, they had their contact. Unless that was all just like.
Well, it was just I mean, I don't know. I think it was less complicated then because they just had to stop one action that was trying to stop them. They weren't looking for specific approval, I guess, necessarily. I don't know. I mean, from what I perceived, it felt like they had almost no contact with Nintendo throughout the whole thing until they tried to shut the stream down, and then we were able to get in contact with them.
Yeah,
but I mean,
that's our
MLG
outside
is,
perception.
Yeah,
what do you think the
MLG
roadblocks
is still.
are?
Huh?
Go ahead. What do you think the roadblocks are at this point? Like, why would Nintendo say no?
Well, so this is part of what I read in the Ultra David article, which actually, Arian, if I read the same Polygon article as you, I actually got linked to it from that article, but if it's just that it could be the corporate culture in Nintendo and Japan in general, where they're kind of sluggish and averse
behind the times.
Yeah, I mean, but it's really weird because Nintendo you typically think of as innovating in different directions, right? I mean, the Wii was the first console to have all this motion stuff, and PlayStation and Xbox have had to respond and come out with their own like that.
Yeah.
And Nintendo recently announced for better or for worse a kind of new direction for their company with this kind of a focus on health. If you read about that, so it's just strange to me that Nintendo, a company who is willing to evaluate themselves and the direction that they're going in with their consoles, isn't looking as much at kind of what the grassroots community is doing and what the people who really love their games are trying to accomplish with their games. So, I mean,
could it be that Nintendo just
understand.
Could it be that Nintendo just doesn't care because they don't know how big the competitive Smash community is, and they would rather say, you know what, we're not going to look 12 years into the past. We're going to focus on the now and what we have to accomplish right now, and any sort of public acknowledgement of that Melee community will be just kind of a distraction to where we're going. Is that possible?
I do think that's possible because you look at how the other companies have run themselves. Starting at least in 2008-ish anyway, once Capcom and them started recognizing the competitive scene for what it was, they've been putting out new versions of games all the time, and the community has continually shifted from game to game, the new versions over the years, and that's probably, if Nintendo looked into it at all, that's probably the model that they would want to follow. So maybe and if that's the case, then they probably want all eyes on Smash 4, and maybe if they realize that Melee is, as has been called, a beautiful accident, and you can't ever be reproduced, they might want to limit the comparisons between Smash 4 and Melee.
That is like exactly what I'm afraid of, right there, and it's like it's still speculation. I feel like 6 months ago, if you had said, you know what, yeah, Nintendo, they finally kind of acted upon something. They, put us through the Nintendo Stream crisis. If you had told me, yeah, we're gonna have a resolution to this, I'd be like, yeah, you know what, it's finally time for Nintendo to, you know, do an either or decision on this matter. Like, are they gonna
Right.
let Melee go on like with all these streams at EVO and MLG, or they're just gonna like bring on the hammer and say, you know what, we let you go at EVO, but this is our IP, and that
Yeah.
enough's enough. But they continue on this path, which makes me believe they just don't care. The path of like
Yeah.
turning the other way and being like, you know what, we're not even gonna talk to these guys. Doesn't matter to us. That's how I feel. I don't know, Daniel and Ari,
See,
do you guys have different
I,
interpretations?
I think that in general, with whenever interpreting what Nintendo does, I go by what if you guys watch the Final Bossman show, it's a game trailer show. It's pretty good. He calls Nintendo a bumbling elephant, which is to say that they kind of go around and go about their own business, and they do their own thing, but with some semblance of intelligence, but at the same time, they're very unpredictable, and their greatness is not necessarily because of their business acumen. Like, it's because they have great creators within their company. They have, wonderful geniuses that make great games. It's undeniable, right? They have a specific magic that's unique to them that no other game company can replicate. Um, but the financials are sometimes weird. I mean, doing something like the Wii after decades of controllers and like buttons and stuff like that, that itself was a massive leap. And now they
Yeah.
made a tablet console, like a console that's literally an iPad strapped to a Wii. It doesn't make that
Right.
much sense. And when they chose which game they want to make an esport, which whatever, they chose Pokemon over Smash Bros. Like, some of the stuff just it's almost inextricable, and it's hard to explain. I think NOA, Nintendo of America, is a little bit easier to handle, and I thought that's why we'd see this expedited. But I think Nintendo just doesn't have an esports policy like a lot of other companies.
Right.
Microsoft's had an esports policy for over a decade, whereas Nintendo just doesn't know what to do, and that's probably what's holding things up. It's more like, since they don't know what to do, they don't do anything, because it's just really not the biggest on their priority list. It's not like
Mhm.
it sells games that at that great of a clip. It's just a PR thing. And it's arguable it's not even a good PR thing. We don't know what we bring to them, and I think they do know about us. It's just it's hard. There's no designated esports division. There's no management of this kind of stuff, and it's hard to see the internal workings of Nintendo. But I bet if we saw them, we'd see that it's a lot less managerial than we think it is. It's uh, it's a lot less controlled than we probably think. They're not sitting around thinking about this all day.
Right.
That's what I think.
Right.
Hmm.
Yeah, but you brought up Pokemon, and last time I checked, Nintendo does take a somewhat active role in, uh, keeping up with the competitive Pokemon scene, and they endorse everything that's going on with that. So it just seems weird that they would pay such attention to that, but not pay attention to Smash.
Right. Well, I
On the
mean,
other hand,
yeah. Sorry, go
Pokemon
on.
has obviously, I think, a greater reach as far as who's going to be playing it. I mean, there wasn't a Smash cartoon or anything that got millions of kids.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Pokemon is definitely, you have to think about that as their number one franchise right now, probably, if anything.
So we've talked a lot about Nintendo. This is the question that I have right now, and I mean, I'm kind of scared to hear the answer, but assuming that EVO continues to not make contact with Nintendo, what what is their plan? Are they including Melee on that pre-registration list? Are they just moving
Right.
forward? What do you think's going to happen? I absolutely
Really
no
hard
idea.
to speculate. I mean, they must have some. I mean, I don't know if they have decided it now, but eventually they're going to have to come up with a cutoff date where they say, you know, if Melee doesn't, you know, if we can't get this Melee thing working by this point, we're going to have to scrap it and bring in another game or something like that. And I mean, you know, if you're a TO and you're, you know, of a national tournament like Apex, for example, and you have to consider people making travel plans and getting your staff prepared, getting the right amount of staff, the equipment. You know, how much time advance would you require to make a decision like that? And for me, I can't imagine anything less than about 3 months, maybe 2.5 months to make this decision. And EVO is what, middle of July?
And here's what I fear for them is that, first of all, I think they probably were under the assumption that they were going to get Smash. I think it goes a bit farther than that, especially since Smash is one of the big three games, right? With Street Fighter, Marvel, and Smash.
Right.
And Smash would have brought in so much attendance. What venue did they get this year? I know I think they got a new one outside the Strip, maybe a little bit bigger. Like this would affect their financials pretty directly. And I know they must be pissed over it. And I hope they don't have any resentment over it, because that could prevent them from getting us not only now but in the future, because they think since we're not a sure thing, they're not going to invest in us by getting bigger venues and dedicating more resources towards us, since we might be a last minute addition, right? And that kind of stuff affects us long term. And all of this stuff affects us long term, to be clear, because you know, there's going to come a point with pretty much every tournament series where we're going to need Nintendo's approval, right? Apex is going to get to that point, you know.
Eventually, yeah.
If we do more Genesis, it'll get to that point. Whatever big tournament series is going to have to deal with that. The thing that confuses me the most about this is that we have MLG, you know, talking up Smash and doing Smash.
Yes.
And you have to think about how is that compatible with each other? And is it because of that MLG has it? That's also another thing. That's a conspiracy. I don't know, but maybe Nintendo isn't as reticent to give EVO permission if they've already given MLG it.
Well, we don't know that they have.
I mean that's all speculation. I kind of highly doubt that in my mind. Like, to me, the MLG announcement, that was a sign, like, oh, for me at least, it was like, you know what, Nintendo finally has, you know, been able to talk to some of these guys. But then recently I hear that MLG hasn't actually, you know, gotten the strict approval of Nintendo, which, you know, made me start to worry. And then, you know, obviously tonight.
If they haven't, then I mean, Shuffle is happening next week, right? And they're showing that on MLG TV. It's not like they just show it on their own website, MLG TV, without like any Are they just gonna do that? That doesn't sound like a very MLG move, right? Like,
do you think MLG's the precedent they set with this MLG.TV streaming Smash without supposedly Nintendo's approval? Do you think that will help EVO make its decision and say, you know what, maybe we don't need like Nintendo to come in and give us their, you know, full grace. Maybe we're just gonna go ahead and do it.
Only if there is actual conversation between MLG heads and EVO heads, and I don't think there is. I don't think any of us know if MLG has Nintendo permission or not, and EVO might be under the assumption that they do, right? So if EVO doesn't know that they don't, then they're not going to go forward with it either, right?
And you know, there's the law with this stuff, as I understand it, is pretty complicated, and you know, a lot of times when these companies make claims like Nintendo did against you know, like Nintendo has done with, you know, streamers, Let's Players on YouTube, and presumably with the stream thing at EVO, it's that, you know, there's some laws which say, like, if you fail to make a claim on something, then you forfeit your right to make claims in the future. So, you know, maybe it's something like that, and maybe it's possible that, you know, Nintendo not doing something with EVO gives us an in to keep doing it in the future. At least I hope.
If I ran EVO, and I hope they did this, I would have made the original email last year about asking for permission for you know, streaming rights from Nintendo. Just saying, instead of saying permission to stream at EVO 2013 Super Smash Bros. Melee, say permission to stream Super Smash Bros. Melee at the Evolution Championship Series. Literally, that itself changing the wording on that would resolve so much. I don't know what they did on their like that. I don't know. I think that kind of
And
thing is
it was kind of
it
was a blurry process, right? We kind of just heard 1 minute that okay, Nintendo's not letting us do that, and then another minute we have Mr. Cannon going on Shoryuken and saying, "Oh, well, they reversed the decision. That's it." We never really, to my knowledge, got like a full play-by-play of
Right.
what happened. Like, did a Nintendo rep call? Like, were they from Nintendo of America? Is it like somebody in the, which department? A decision maker within Nintendo who's like actually got the authority to do something like this? We just don't know.
Right, and we don't know. Evo doesn't know. I don't know if MLG knows. And the interesting thing, and the irony of all this, and the comedy of all this, is that just as much as they are bumbling and indecisive about giving streaming rights, they'd probably be just as bumbling and indecisive about litigating against these streaming rights, right? Would they do anything if Evo streamed Evo 2014? I don't know.
It's
I don't think
hard
they
to
would.
say
I honestly
because
don't. I don't think
not
they do
as
anything.
not as much in the recent past, but in the 80s and 90s, Nintendo was very notorious for having a strong team of lawyers who would come at you, you know, you on the NES, for example, everything they basically said you either make games for Nintendo or you don't make games. You make games for Nintendo only. You don't make games for anybody else. If you want to make games for anybody else, you're not making games for Nintendo. And
Yeah.
there's still kind of a legacy of these tactics from Nintendo, I think, but it's just a matter of what they're going to pay attention to, and it's just I have no idea at this point.
Right. But I mean, if our theory is that they just don't pay attention to us, then maybe that's a gamble I would like to make.
I hope so.
It's not something
But,
Evo or
man.
MLG will never do, but that's what we've been doing for a dozen years now.
Right. But I think if I were Nintendo and the thing I speculated on about earlier was that they wouldn't want attention on Melee because they want Smash 4 to be their big focus. So I think, the ultimate Smash 4 is not going to be out by EVO. We're pretty sure of that.
No way.
So I think, it's not entirely outside of reason to say, Nintendo would endorse Melee for this year's EVO, but then say you have to go to Smash 4 if you want Smash at all for any of these next, for the next generation of tournaments.
Well, that's what Blizzard did, which is a lot worse. I mean, that's what Blizzard did with StarCraft 2. They said you can't stream Brood War anymore, and they just killed the game entirely. Man, that's just a reminder of how dumb the legal system on this stuff is. These companies can literally stop everything. They can stop anything and everything.
Yeah.
And we're at least lucky that we don't have Blizzard on our hands. Instead, we have Nintendo.
Yeah.
Because dealing with I don't want to say incompetence, but just
it's
nonchalance.
It's
I would say.
yeah.
It's better than dealing with.
Blizzard. I mean, we've all. I don't know if you ever played Warcraft or any of that stuff, but I think we've all kind of watched Blizzard change in the last 10 years or so from being, the company that's all about focusing on one game and making it as quality as possible. And they're still kind of about that, but now they're all about kind of getting the last dollar out of every franchise that they have, and every decision is made with that in mind. And if you don't know about the history of Blizzard, I encourage you to go read about their CEO, Bobby Kotick, who is a controversial figure in
I think that
the gaming community, and
part of why that happens because they were acquired by Activision, and
right, exactly. That's the guy. Bobby Kotick is the CEO of Activision Blizzard. Right. Yes.
Before they were acquired by Activision, they didn't really have a presence in esports. They allowed people like OGN and MSL and all those stuff, all those channels in Korea to just stream and do their thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then dollar signs came into play. People started being in company meetings at Activision, said that this is an easy way to get more profit.
Right.
And they saw the future of esports. Now, Nintendo hasn't quite seen the future of esports. They don't understand the kind of scale we're getting now. It's odd that they don't, because Twitch. I mean, there's a recent graphic I tweeted out, which is it's like the fourth leader in like internet bandwidth. We're actually getting to a high critical mass, right? I think it was like Netflix, Google, Apple, then Twitch. Twitch was number 4.
Wow.
You know, it
Yeah.
was
I'd love to
crazy.
see that.
Like,
That's crazy.
to look at that. Yeah,
Mhm.
it was crazy to look at that. But it's a little skewed. It's obviously not a show of user base. It's more of a show of what the kind of HD content takes more bandwidth than low quality stuff.
Yeah.
But regardless, it's an amazing science. It was above Hulu, and Hulu does HD content, right? And I that's what shocked me when I looked at it. It's odd to me that they don't realize it yet, but when they do, we'll see what their policies will be, because I have a feeling whenever a change happens, it will be just as drastic as what we saw, as the responses that we get currently.
Right.
If there's a change, it might be more monetary than we expect. They might make a Smash League. They might do something like that, whether for good or for bad, because it might be Smash 4 limited, like we said. And we're kind of at the mercy of their whim.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, here's the question. Let's say the worst happens. You can. Everybody probably has their own idea of what the worst is, but if the worst happens, what happens to the community? And one thing that I got from reading Ultra David's article that I linked earlier was that the FGC games communities like the FGC will go on even when the developers abandon them, or these tournament companies abandon them, because that's just how they've always done things, and they know how to keep their scenes alive just doing it by themselves. Whereas esports, I think their growth has largely been the result of coordination between their communities and the developers that support them, and it would be hard to get anything on the scale of what they have now without their support. So even if the worst happens, I still think we're going to be playing this game for a while.
Right. I mean that's a given. I don't think Melee's going to die or anything. I think it's just a matter of at what rate are we going to grow, and how's our growth going to be managed? And that's a question that we have to look forward to, because
what is our ceiling?
What's our ceiling?
Right. Yeah.
Where are we going towards? And these are questions that I think if we can't answer them, and this is like a panel of some of the biggest CEOs in the community currently, then we're in trouble, right? Because if we don't know exactly what kind of growth we're headed towards and what kind of ceiling we're headed towards, then what are we building up to? In the next 3 weeks, I'm hosting 5 tournaments, right? But what does that mean long term? Like long term, is that a good or a bad thing? Does that mean we're going somewhere with this, or is there an inevitability that this is the biggest Melee can get? Is there inevitability this is the biggest Smash can get, because there's a ceiling to it, right? And even then, even when we do reach that ceiling, it's never guaranteed. You look at the World Cyber Games, which just announced that they were closing just recently.
Yeah,
they were the biggest thing. They were the biggest thing around in the early 2000s. They had they had 20,000 spectators in 2005. 2005, 20,000 spectators, like 1,000 competitors. Those are numbers that you don't even see now.
Before Twitch, 20,000 people.
Yeah,
20,000 people.
Media.
That's crazy.
Really?
That's crazy. They had television shows in Singapore. They were in different countries everywhere. They had they were the Olympic Games of esports. They had it all, right? And during that process, different things went down. They lost prestige. And if you look at the YouTube channel for the World Cyber Games now, their videos are getting like 500 views. It's insane considering the previous strength. Whatever we go to, it's never guaranteed. And even if we go down the esports route, like we partner up with an MLG, or we partner up, I guess EVO's esports now, I don't even know. Whenever we partner up with something like that, it doesn't have the permanence that a grassroots would give us. But even then, there has to be a growth and a trajectory for the grassroots scene if we mean to survive, because that's the real growth. That's the real strength of the community. If our grassroots scene is continually getting stronger, then that's how we know that we're actually growing and not just being piggybacked by a large corporate entity that has a lot of money to throw at us.
Right, exactly. And the MLG tour, basically we're doing most of the work, and they're giving us a big tournament in Anaheim. So
right.
it's that can be good. That can be a good sign. It can also be a bad sign. It can be a good sign in that they trust that the grassroots scene is big enough, and we know that it's big enough that we can get all these people organized amongst ourselves to have these big tournaments. It can be a bad sign in that, maybe they're not trying to invest too deeply into this, into Melee because, they're just going low risk, as low risk as possible, and giving
And
one
they don't
tournament.
want to get the bells and whistles of Nintendo on their ass.
Right.
I think no. My answer to that is no, then yes. With the first one, which is to say that, to the second one, which is to say that they don't want to do high investments because of higher risk, I think that's a yes, because that's what MLG is doing with everything. They're hosting fewer events than they did earlier in the 2000s. Though they've gotten bigger, they host a lot less events per year now. They only host like 3, compared to back in the heyday. If you watch the documentary, you'll see that they host plenty of events, right?
It was like
Including
2 last year.
Yeah, they don't host that many events anymore. They're more a production company with like MLG TV, Esports Report, etc., etc. They're almost turning into a year-long coverage of what Riot does with League of Legends, or what the Valve does with Dota, or whatever whatever it is. They produce a lot of media nowadays. The event coordinating and all that, they still do that, and their events are huge. But it's not necessarily the primary importance of their business. In terms of, does it mean that that us doing all the work, all that stuff? I think it's a good sign, because if their staff comes from our community, our grassroots community, that's a very good sign. We don't have many people in our community, despite being so interlaced with esports throughout our history, inside the esports infrastructure. We should, when you think about it. I mean, we were a big part of what the early MLG upstarts. We should have a lot of staff there. We have a few that they're well connected in there. Having Solid Jake on the squad, I think it's a good asset. Having that's good, and it shows their trust in our grassroots community. That we can at least take that to heart. I think it's a good thing that they're coordinating with us rather than not. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I wanna take this moment to take a few viewer questions, because I feel like the chat's kind of been like, what's going on? I missed it. Trey Biddix says, can you guys summarize EVO's decision on Melee in a nutshell? Because I missed it. I just want to quickly, for anyone who just tuned in, the gist of it is EVO decided, yes, there is a spot for Melee at EVO 2014. However, there is a big asterisk next to that statement, in that we haven't really gotten full approval from Nintendo yet, or even maybe approval at all. I didn't actually tune in and listen to the iPlay Winter stream just because of the nature of the Skype call, but it seems to me that they haven't really made solid contact with Nintendo on this. So in a nutshell, yes, Melee has a spot, but side note, Nintendo is going to need to approve it for this to be finalized.
Right.
And we have another viewer, Gibson0, who says, can Reggie help Melee? And I think this was maybe made kind of a joke tweet, but now I'm kind of thinking, like, Nintendo of Japan versus Nintendo of America. Is there any way that, like, Nintendo of America is in touch enough with, like, the competitive scene and just, like, the Smash community in general that they could step in and actually make this happen? What do you think about that? It's a long shot, right?
I do like Reggie.
Who doesn't like Reggie?
I mean, and it might be hard for Japan to see it, because the Melee scene is in America. It's not like the other FGC games where the Japanese are as strong or stronger than the Americans. Here is where here in Europe is where the scene is. So, it might be the best path is going to NOA and trying to get them to say something to Nintendo of Japan.
Right. I don't know. It's
But okay, maybe I have this faint memory of somebody from Nintendo didn't tweeted. There was a tweet where, like, somebody from Nintendo of America, I don't want to say endorsed what happened at EVO, but at least acknowledged it. And I feel like this happened around shortly after EVO. I don't remember the details of this.
I don't remember exactly who it was, but I think somebody pointed out that this person was not in any sort of decision-making position within Nintendo.
I think it was like a like a former employee that said what they could possibly be thinking.
Yeah.
It wasn't an official statement, and it wasn't anything concrete. I know what you're talking about, though.
Well, I think there were two instances. One was by a former employee who no longer works at Nintendo, who kind of blogged about what the Nintendo thought process probably was going into the Nintendo Stream crisis and post EVO. But then there was another instance that I think Sheridan is referring to, where like some I think current employee of Nintendo kind of acknowledged EVO and had some good things to say about it, but people kind of blew it up, and eventually it came out that this guy's not really in any sort of decision making power at Nintendo. It's just kind of another instance of Nintendo being wishy-washy, like no full decision being made, but hey, let's let one of us employees acknowledged EVO, so whatever we can get, we can take. That's how I feel.
So Rob, if you could get a bunch of people with decision-making power in a room, and you had one PowerPoint presentation, 15 minutes, to give to Nintendo about why the Smash community is so great, what would you do? Taffo, I know you do a bunch of silly puns. But what
Taffo would go into Taffo pun presentation at NASA headquarters mode.
Exactly. He would do that presentation exactly.
At JPL. Sorry, at JPL.
It would win their hearts and minds. We already know that. Taffo would get it unlocked. But
Reggie would be like, "Oh my God, get this man on board."
You'd become VP of Esports. VP of Esports immediately. VP of Esports and puns. They put a special division just for that. But if you guys could, like, what is our argument? What is the thing that we could tell them? Why are we valuable? I don't know.
Oh, it's such a deep-rooted issue.
Yeah.
You can go the argument, like the lawyer argument with Ultra David talking about intellectual property route. I feel like that's kind of risky because at the end of the day, Nintendo can shut us down if they want to. Am I right in saying that? Like, if they really want to, they can shut us down.
Yeah. I also think it's too threatening at this stage. Like, we're not at that point. That's more like that's
where we're telling Nintendo, hey, guess what? We have a case here. You just got lawyered, so let us stream. I don't think we're at that point at all. I think we would need to approach it from a perspective of, you know what? This is a game that's 12 years old, and the community is still alive. Let me show you some numbers. Let me show you the Juggle Guy Melee Year in Reviews. And let me show you what he did with the Breast Cancer Research Fund drive last year, and just the dedication that everybody showed in making Melee get to the grand stage again. I think that's, Rob, if we had a presentation, that's how I would frame it. I have absolutely no idea who this hypothetical audience would be, but like in my heart, that's the best way to convince Nintendo. I just don't know if they'll listen.
Well, I would also say, go ahead, Arian.
Oh, sorry. Well, first of all, they're not going to read all the year in review. I think you could put that behind you.
I was half joking about that. All right, I was half joking.
I saw the podcast and I heard when I heard that Scar didn't even read it. I was like, dude, I'm Xing this out. We're doing a year in review podcast and he didn't even read it.
Scar, man, Scar's killing me.
I do my homework before I come to these podcasts. I read the whole thing.
And to add insult to injury, he was like, but I did scroll through DOH's Melee Year in Review, like GIF GIF edition. I was like, really? Are you really gonna tell me that?
He also Control F his name. That was also precious. I like
yeah.
Daniel, you haven't said anything in a while. What are your thoughts? Like, what will you do with 15 minutes in front of Nintendo decision makers?
I would just create a video.
And what would this video contain?
Just like what our community is about. Highlight some of the top players. What else would there be? Just like showing, like, I don't know, it'd be like a cute montage interviewing people, like, and their experiences with the community and like what we built and who we are. I feel like Nintendo, like you guys have mentioned, are very naive about who we are, and I just feel like if we just had a video showcasing highlights.
But are they naive? I feel like so Sakurai's been given a little more leeway, I feel like, with the development of Smash 4. Like, they are open to letting Sakurai blog about it and communicate like his thoughts.
Brawl, though.
That's not really saying much though.
So
It's just
so
like
okay,
saying
this
I
this is the
know
point
the
I'm trying to
basketball
make.
because LeBron James can dunk. Like
This is the point
that
I'm
doesn't.
trying to make though. Like they are willing to. I mean, I think with Sakurai, I am like 99.9% sure that he knows about the competitive Melee community and he knows about EVO. So on that on that note, like would Nintendo really be naive, or is it still this issue of they're very protective of their intellectual property and they're just kind of afraid of what something like EVO would do in terms of presenting Melee? Like they don't want it to be presented in the wrong way. It's their
Right.
baby, is their product, and they don't want someone else controlling how it's presented, especially when Smash 4 is just like kind of on the horizon. It's coming up.
Yeah.
That's more of my interpretation. Instead of naive, they're a little bit too protective.
Right. And well, I do think Sakurai knows that it's one thing to know that Evo and the community exists. It's another thing to experience it. It a fact, just a fact that you write down is different than, you know, kind of living it out. And they don't have that advantage of that perspective.
Hmm.
So I think, to go back to your question about what I would put in this presentation, Nintendo has an image, right? As a company, as a purveyor of entertainment, and they they have this image of being, friendly and bringing people together. And I think there's a lot that we can show about the Smash community that fits in with that image, in how this competition, the spirit of competition, has brought a whole bunch of people together. And if that's something that can resonate with Nintendo, especially in an age where all these big competitive games like League of Legends are online only. You don't have the benefit of being with somebody while you're playing. Whereas with Smash, the fact that we've had to go over to people's houses and all get together, get with one another in a tournament setting, has really shaped the face of our community and fighting games in general. And
Right.
I would hope that that's kind of the message that we would sell to Nintendo.
See, but I think that's exactly where our problem lies. I think the fact that our community is so player specific and so player centric is where that divide will always exist. Like we when we talk about how inclusive our community is, we talk about how we'll invite anyone to our house to play. We go to someone else to have a Smashers, all that. They're never gonna have that. These are guys that are like in their 60s in a boardroom or something, right? That's never going to be the angle that we can sell to them, and I don't think that will ever work. But but if we show them and they have a communal experience as spectators for our game, that can be different. If you look at our events, almost all the literally all the spectators in the room watching the screen are players also. They're competitors also, and that maybe that kind of shift going from just being a player sport to also including the spectator aspect and lauding the spectator aspect, being a fan of something, etc. We have shirts going around like mango shirts, Armada shirts. That helps, but having more of that and promoting that can maybe make more sense to them at least, because they're not going to get it from the player's perspective and why it's so awesome from the player's perspective. I don't think we have a chance for that.
I mean, I agree that they're not going to totally get it, but at the same time, I feel like they wouldn't have made the decisions that they've made over the years, especially since the Wii's come out, if they at least didn't have some kind of idea of this experience. Because, I think most of these people have kids that are, these old people that are working at Nintendo. They have kids and they've seen them grow up and they've seen them experience things with games, hopefully. And, you know, maybe that's the way you could reach them, is through, what do you want your children to experience? How do you want gaming to affect their lives, and how they interact in society and make friends with other people.
I still am going back to this idea of Nintendo just it's not that they don't care, but they don't have enough to gain by making any sort of decision on this topic. Maybe it's some sort of there's like a diffusion of responsibility phenomenon. This happens at tournaments where none of the TOs are given a complete responsibility. They don't own any part of that tournament. Maybe it's the same at Nintendo, where there's a situation of, there's 20 people sitting in a boardroom. Who's going to be the one to deal with this? And, the CEO steps in and says, we just don't have enough to gain by even entertaining this thought. So let's put it on the back burner. And it just never, it never gets brought up again. And they just kind of keep ignoring EVO and MLG.
Right. But I mean, ignoring them, it is, I would say they basically. How would you characterize the response to EVO last year? Would you say that that's what they did?
It's so hard to say, just because Tom Cannon didn't really as far as I know, at least. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong. As far as I know, Tom Cannon didn't really go into the details of how that interaction went down. It was just kind of one minute, Nintendo, we've received word from Nintendo we can't stream. Then the next minute it's like, they reversed the decision. We're going on with this event.
It may be just that they want to be as non-committal as possible, because that would indicate
maybe that's their best move.
That might be good for us, right? Non-committal means we just pretend like this is some kids playing at their house. We're not gonna endorse it. We're not gonna say it's good, bad, whatever. We're just gonna let it happen, not acknowledge it, and that way Nintendo avoids having to come out with a position in a certain way that people will say something about their trajectory as a company. They're going to have they avoided people saying Nintendo feels a certain way about competitive Nintendo gaming or another way.
That's the dangerous part, because in that case, if from a perspective of the EVO tournament organizer, if you get zero communication from Nintendo, like, what are you supposed to do? Are you supposed to put Melee on the pre-registration and hope that nobody buys their flights? And if Nintendo swoops in, you're gonna have to break the news. It's an extremely tough situation for them, and I fear that they would take, the safe route. Which, I mean, to be fair, that would make the most sense, and just say, you know what, sorry guys, we can't do Melee. Nintendo is just, they're non-committal, and we can't do it.
Well, and the thing that scares me is that it's February, because like the last game lineup announcement was in December, and then we had like the drive coming around in January and stuff like that. But it's already February, and it's not even, it's February 6th.
Well, hold on. Last year it was announced on January 8th. The lineups drive. and then the drive all at once. It was announced on January 8th. The previous year was January 6th, and then the previous year was January 3rd. So this year we're talking about like February already. Part of me kind of wants. Yeah.
Wasn't Melee already in by now, even after the drive?
Well, it was 6 days ago from now. It was the end of January.
Yeah. So February 1st last year is when Melee was confirmed for EVO 2013.
See, that's risky business, isn't it? Because I mean, EVO wants to open they want to open their registration. I mean, I don't know when they're going to do that. But...
That's my question. Like, on February 1st, they opened registration last year. As soon as Melee was confirmed, the very next day, if you went to Shoryuken, EVO 2013 registration was up. You could pay. You could go enter Melee. It was a done deal. So what are they going to do tomorrow? Are we going to sit here again and look at what they did? Like, what is their cutoff point, right? That's what Sheridan said. I mean, it really, really concerns me at this point.
And you got to think the reason why this announcement is later than previous years. We said early January is when they did game line announcements. Maybe it had to do with this. I don't know.
That thought crossed my mind completely. That was like one of my questions that I haven't asked.
Even if a miracle happens and Nintendo finally responds or whatever and does it in a timely manner, you got to think about how will it affect our attendance? How will it affect our registration numbers if they have a registration page up and then 2 months from now Melee gets added, and they already have like 400 plus registrants who could have selected Melee if it was available, but now won't, so we'll miss out on a bunch of cross registrants. You got there's a lot of different factors here, and even if this all works out, I don't know if it'll work out as smoothly as like it did last year, where we felt like big winners.
Smooth last year would be I don't know.
Well, I think we left EVO 2013 thinking literally things went well as anything could. Literally all the right, so many things had to go right, and then they all did in order.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
in order they all went right. Now we might be having one thing go wrong, and that one thing might be hurt us really badly.
So we're kind of, I mean, we've been on for like an hour and 10 minutes. I want to kind of summarize. Do we all agree that there's kind of three ways that this can go down? Number one, Nintendo, this is the complete optimistic approach. Nintendo says, you know what? Yeah, we finally gotten our shit together. We've come together and said, yeah, you can stream it. And EVO goes on, puts us on the pre-reg in a month, and we all go on and live a happy EVO 2014.
Right.
Second option, Nintendo brings down the hammer. They're like, you know what? This is our IP. We've had enough of you guys. We're shutting you down. No Melee at EVO 2014. The third option is what I think is most likely, and what's the most scary to me is they just say nothing. And Mr. Wizard and his minions, they try to contact Nintendo every day. It's like what's his name on Shawshank Redemption. He just sends a piece of mail to the government every single day. He writes every day, and he doesn't hear back for like years and years and years. And that's just the cycle that we keep going through with Nintendo. And finally, Mr. Wizard's like, you know what, guys, we can't do it. We're calling off Melee for EVO 2014. Are those three options? Do you guys see anything other than those three happening?
Well, I mean, those three are kind of on a spectrum, I guess. And I mean, Nintendo, yeah, I feel like they're gonna say something. It's just gonna take a long time. I really don't think that they will completely ignore it, because
Really?
I don't think they'll completely ignore it.
It's been 8 months since EVO 2013.
But I understand, but they're probably just taking their time on this, and
But the
They
thing
don't
is,
have
I
the
don't
same
know.
sense of urgency. They're not doing it from our perspective, like, oh man, we need to know now. It's more to them like, we're gonna take our time, and you're gonna do this on our terms, right?
yeah.
Right. The thing is, we don't really have that much more time.
We
You know,
don't.
that Evo's going to have to allocate resources to things sooner rather than later, and
And
it's not like we
qualifiers.
can wait. There's qualifiers too, right?
Yeah.
One that's coming up, by the way, in a few weeks. You guys should go to SCR.
Yeah, we have
Soon.
a
Um,
regional coming up in less than a month.
Yeah.
Like they've got
yeah.
to like things have to go into motion like really quick from now on.
Well, I mean, what was the whole, what was the summary of interaction between Evo and Nintendo last year? I mean, were they actively trying to contact them all,
I
in those months? Because
Here's okay. I remember Mr.
they're
Wizard going
otherwise
on a
they're in the same
podcast.
situation, right?
I
Yeah.
remember Mr. Wizard going on a podcast and explaining the pre-Evo situation, and I think it all kind of summed up to this. Mr. Wizard um, reached out to Nintendo, um, but it was like kind of a subsection of Nintendo that didn't have the most decision-making power, so to speak. So
Yeah.
I don't remember is this the financial department or the legal department? I feel like it's the legal department that he wanted to avoid because that's the one. Those are the people who would most likely say, "Yeah, we're shutting you down." So I think he reached out to another section of Nintendo and got a tentative, "Yeah, it's okay," but he never consulted with the legal department of Nintendo, and
Mhm.
that's those are the people who eventually were like, you know what, no stream at EVO 2013,
Yeah.
and a few days before the event, he had to deal with that.
Yeah.
I
Well,
mean,
here's my
it's so
question.
speculative. It's so speculative, and honestly, this hits pretty hard because it goes against what my impression and what I think everyone's impression was over the last few months, right? Because they rescinded what they did at Evo 2013. MLG's on board. MLG seems like they would be even stricter than Evo with streaming rights and things like that. They would be
You
much
think
more by
so?
the book,
You think so?
right?
Yeah.
And you have all these MLG reps going to our tournaments. They're talking about sponsoring our stuff, putting us on their website, all this stuff. It seems to indicate that Nintendo was giving everyone the okay, and then they were just handing out free passes. And this is the first sign that I think that the ugly monster rears his head again.
Well, here's my question. What is really the difference between our situation now and our situation a year ago?
We've had precedent for this before, and we've seen what could possibly result, and that would be the whole event being shut down. Even though last year, you know how they wanted to shut down the whole event, but then Mr. Wizard was able to
Right.
convince them, you know what, just shut down our stream. We have paying attendees who've already booked flights. Don't shut down our event. But now we've kind of seen that that can happen, and that almost did happen. So, as a tournament organizer and company, I don't think they would tread lightly in the fact that Nintendo almost did that last year when organizing this year's event and considering everyone's travel plans.
But
Right. Overall, I think we're in a much worse position, to be honest. Like I said, it's February and we haven't been confirmed to the lineup. And while it being being unconfirmed from being not being streamed, like that happening like 3 days before, that's actually almost better than it happening now, because that's already past the point of no return in terms of EVO, the organizers, and
Right.
from their standpoint, they have to host us at that point. This is not quite the same situation. They don't have to host us at this point,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And this is the point. This will soon get to the point of no return for them, because since they do have to allocate resources, since they do have to start the registration, they might just go forward and not include us because they're not getting a response.
That's the
And
thing.
That's
We're
But
before
what I'm
the
asking
point of no
is-
return, so maybe as EVO, they're just going to return because they don't want to risk it
right.
for their own sake and for their attendees' sake.
But what I'm asking is, from EVO's perspective, from Mr. Wizard's perspective, what is the difference in their situation now from a year ago? I mean, weren't they in basically the same position a year ago?
I think the difference is if he goes ahead and puts Melee on the pre-registration and he gets, say, 100, 200 people, I think the difference now is Nintendo can look at that and say, you know what, this is still, the early stages of your event. We're shutting you down. That's the bottom line. And it's your problem to deal with the 200 people who've already registered.
So you would say basically we kind of are in the same situation, except we just got lucky last year that they found out about this
Yes.
at the time that they did.
Absolutely. That was my
Yes.
interpretation. People say, I've heard people say last year, oh, Nintendo finally gave the green light to Smash being streamed. And I'm like, you know what? They didn't give us a green light at all.
Right.
It was more like, they they pulled us over and let us go with a warning instead of a
Yeah.
ticket. That's my interpretation. So, like, I don't know. I can't say I'm surprised by this, but I didn't think we'd be sitting here talking about what just happened. If you asked me 2 hours ago. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts? I think we gotta wrap up here. I don't want to keep dragging this on too long. I think there's going to be a lot more to discuss in future weeks, and tomorrow and just in the next week, I think it's going to tell us a lot about what EVO
Yeah.
does and how they're going to proceed.
So, you want to do predictions about when and what we will hear back from Nintendo, or are we too...
Final thoughts.
Right.
Let's go around the horn and let's just get some predictions, just for the hell of it. Predictions on what do you want to do? Like whether Nintendo, like which of those three they're gonna go with, and then maybe what EVO's gonna do.
Uh-huh.
Let's start with you, Sheridan. What do you think?
Okay, well, I think we already know that MLG has been trying to get a hold of them, and I think MLG might try to force their hand early enough so that we don't have to worry about EVO, hitting that point of no return and, dashing our hopes that way. I think we will know before then, one way or the other, and I'm inclined to say that good things will happen. But I would still say it's really hard to say. I don't want to put a number on it.
Yeah.
I'm going to say more likely than not.
Right. Daniel, you still alive?
I am. I'm just playing League. But,
Oh my God! I was afraid you'd say that. I was like, he's pretty focused on something, and it's
Yeah.
not this Skype chat.
I would say, I don't know. It's in the wise words of Cam, it could go either way. I'm actually leaning towards yes, that they are. I'm banking on the fact that MLG knows something that we don't, and so I'm assuming by virtue of MLG doing what they're doing, that for some reason EVO will be able to do something.
Right.
So
Arian?
that's my thoughts.
I think
You were
that,
you were originally the one who said Melee's a lock. We're in. It's a done deal. What is your stance now?
dude. All of my information was either a lie or this is all just a freaking tease.
I didn't know if you
Uh,
had like an inside scoop or something, but I was afraid to ask. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna let Arian say that and hope that he's right.
This is why I probably like if you looked at my camera like this entire time, I haven't really been paying attention, but I probably looked pissed this entire time because I was just so sure, so sure. I was just so ready to to celebrate about this, but I think I still like I've been riding the last year on optimism, and it's hard for me to move away from that just because of one little bump. But I think even though that is the case, I think this is the time for pessimism because that's the only way anything is going to get done right now. Because when we have our backs cornered, that's when we're the strongest. At least we've shown it. And the only way to really expedite this kind of process, and that's what we need in order to get attendance, is in order to tweet it out, go on Facebook, go on social media, etc., like we did before. And it's not going to be as easy this time. We're not going to have gaming outlets going crazy about this. We're not going to have the wider support like we did last year because there's no inspirational story this time. Not comparatively, right? This is just one more year. This is not one last chance. It's a different perspective, and this will show our true strength because what we did last year was on the backs of a lot of support from other people, and with that carrying that story. But this is us doing it simply because that's what we need to do, and it's going to be a show of leadership among our community members. And I'm going to ride with that kind of optimism. I have enough faith in our community and our leaders to know that they will step up to the challenge. That's where my optimism lies. But it's going to be so much harder than last time. So I think will get added. I think it might be unfortunate how late we get added, and that'll cost us entrance and cost us registrants. But it's still puzzling to me how this could even be happening because we're into MLG. But I mean, the only way to spin it pessimistically is that we're just going to be removed from MLG and we're going to be removed from EVO because I don't see why one would stream without the other.
Yeah, I mean, you make some really good points. At the end of the day, talking about the attendance hit, is it really that big of a difference whether we get 300 or we get 600 or we get 900? Isn't like part of the value of being at EVO that top 8 exposure we get and just the fact that everyone else is watching? I don't think it's that big of a deal what the in-person turnout is.
I don't know. I mean, I think we really made a big impression with the numbers last year.
Yeah,
I think
no,
if
absolutely.
we had only gotten, I think if we had gotten, Injustice numbers or whatever, if we got numbers comparable to just the rest of the games, they wouldn't be looking at us for this year. Yeah. And, we broke a stream record that we held for like 2 hours, and that's amazing. But I do really think the numbers, kind of force them to think about it as the game that they want to come back. And
I think it matters in the sense that we have a unique opportunity to break plateaus that have never been broken by the Smash community. We're talking about 1,000 plus. We're talking about those kind of numbers, and that kind of impression gets the attention of more than just an MLG, more than just an EVO and stuff like that. We'll get traditional esports attention, and that's what matters. I think numbers do matter. I agree with you in terms of the day-to-day Smash life. Our local is going to get any bigger because instead of 500, we're going to get 600 or 700 or whatever. Maybe not, but in terms of the long term, in terms of the kind of avenues it opens for us, no, it will matter. It would matter, especially if we rival Street Fighter or Marvel numbers. If we actually go to that length, we'll be taken far more seriously than we've ever been before.
All right. Well, I mean, I think this is a good discussion. I'm just as perplexed as you guys, I think, on like why this hasn't happened yet, and I don't think it's any fault of EVO at all. I think I trust that they have been trying their best to reach out to Nintendo.
Yeah.
It's just that continued cycle of speculation, right? That
yeah, and I think Melee is the one game that there's a lot of games that they could have added, but a lot of those games that they could have added wouldn't have brought new people. They would have just gotten people that were going to go already,
Exactly.
to sign up for that. Melee is the game that's going to bring in a whole bunch of new people, and
Yep.
they're going to hope for more exposure for the traditional FGC games for new people. So I do think I completely agree that EVO is definitely doing their best, and because they know how much
I think it's in their
we're
best
good for them,
interest,
yeah.
and I think EVO needs Melee just as much as Melee needs EVO right now. So I trust.
I don't know about that, but we
I
definitely have a lot
argue-
to give to one another.
I argue that it's a very mutually beneficial thing.
It is mutually
but-
beneficial, but let's be real. They're gonna survive.
Yeah, no, they are. Okay, well, I think we're gonna wrap up here. The plan for the next couple weeks is I think we're gonna have a normal Melee on Me episode next Thursday. Hopefully, the return of Scar. Scar's busy right now. He's on a plane to Nintendo headquarters. Gonna have a talk with the decision makers.
Hey, Rob,
let's,
do you want to advertise your show?
Yeah, and then afterwards, I feel like, so we've usually been on a bi-weekly basis, right? Melee on Me, and I want to start doing like a really brief show every other Thursday to fill in that gap. And Daniel seems to be on board, and I'm hoping like people like Sheridan and Arian want to be on board for future installments too. Maybe not every time, but just an in and out kind of thing. So I have plans for that. John, our producer, has made some really great stream overlays already for me, and it's gonna be fun. So look for that in 2 weeks after the normal Melee on Me episode next week. Yeah, I think.
let's shout out some tournaments that are happening soon.
Shout outs to tournaments. Yeah, sure, and go ahead.
All right, well, we've got a NorCal regional happening March 22nd and 23rd.
And does it have a name?
It's called The Next Episode, and
Nice.
it's happening in Oakland, California. It's the same crew that brought you Good Shit Herman, Don't Go Down There Jeff, Rule 6, all those great tournaments, those great legendary NorCal regionals. It's the same crew. We've got a new venue. It can fit like 200 people. It's going to be great, and I hope you all can make it. And the Facebook event and Smashboards thread will be up soon. We're just working on getting registration.
Nice. I'm going to let Daniel continue on his League of Legends playing. He doesn't get a shout out to any tournament. Arian, what about you? I
Arian's
know
got
you're gonna be a
bunch to
busy
do, I'm
man
sure.
in the next few weeks from the sounds of things. What are you hosting, and what do you want to talk about with that?
So we're hosting a bunch of stuff. We have, of course, SSS all the time. SCR is the real big dog that I think everyone should go to, or a lot of people
I'm
should go
going.
to. That'd be great. You should go. I'm gonna go to your thing. It's gonna be great.
20 games, dude. 20 games, and Melee is one of the
You to sign up for.
Melee is one of the 3 games with the biggest cap, I believe.
Dude,
if I remember correctly.
somebody should just sign up for every single game. Make the TO's life like just
Miserable.
to test the TO.
Make them
I mean,
miserable.
The real test. of
The
every-
the funniest thing is they actually it's like they ran out of fighting games and they decided to put non-fighting games because there's like a Gundam shooting game that like
They should
me
put
and
like
Sun-
Duck Hunt in, things like that, dude.
me and
Punch
Sun are
out,
gonna
dude.
enter. Me and
Yeah.
Sun are gonna enter. We're gonna win. We're gonna practice. We decided we're gonna practice like the week before. Obviously, we're not gonna practice Melee. That'd be ridiculous.
You guys should add
We're gonna-
Taffocans on League of Legends. I'm
Wow.
pretty
Okay, John, can you mute this guy? Can we be like around the horn and just press the button and mute him, like right now?
bad.
Uh,
Ouch.
if this is gonna be a, if this is gonna be a regular
add
thing,
Taffocans.
All right, and I guess my final shout out is I'm actually hosting a tournament in East Lansing, Michigan on Saturday. It's Sweet 14, and Sweet stands for Spartans and Wolverines Exhibiting Entertaining Tournaments, and that's going to be. Oh, all right, Sheridan, stop laughing. The last installment we got, 101 entrants. Get at me. Probably not going to be that same level, but we are expecting, I would say, at least 60 to 70 people for this one.
Well, we
and
had a
Furbikaze's coming, so it's going to have that top player hype.
Yeah.
Trail's coming. He's bringing the shit talk. So, those are the 2 main attractions right there.
Yeah, well, we had a tournament in NorCal just a little bit ago
Oh,
with
God.
no top player
God.
hype at all.
God damn it, dude.
And this
All right.
tournament, the NorCal
All right.
Arcadian got like 165 people.
I'm going to
no
host
ranked people at all.
a
It's
Michigan
insane.
Arcadian, and we will go for that record.
Dude, I
So
think
Arian started the trend. Okay,
I can
shout outs
close.
to Arian for
I wonder if
starting
you're ever
the
gonna- I wonder
Arcadian
if you're
trend
gonna
again.
You might
We
beat
got-
the first SoCal Arcadian.
SoCal
Man.
Arcadian was at 146 entrants.
SoCal Arcadian,
NorCal.
first
But-
SoCal
but
Arcadian
our-
was like 80. 80.
Okay, okay.
Our unique entrance was off the chain, but I believe we beat you guys at unique because we had so much for teams that because we did pro am we had like almost 50 teams. So we had a lot of uniques.
I don't care about that. We
In
had a
terms
lot
of number of people in the venue, because the
Yeah.
ranked players show up. We had all of our ranked guys there.
We
so
had
we had
plenty
like
of ranked people too, but we just we didn't let them sign up for teams.
yeah, okay.
So,
All right.
Okay.
I think we should wrap things up.
I see you shared.
Yeah.
All right,
Alright.
Sheridan's the next episode, March 22nd and 23rd. Arian
Hopefully
hosting SSS after SSS after SSS, and then SCR, which is February 28th through March 2nd. And then Juggle Guy hosting, as well as the MSU crew. They organized the event, so shout outs to them. Hosting Sweet 14 in East Lansing, Michigan, February 8th. So yeah, I think we should go offline. We've been here for a while. We can stay after for like post-show festivities, but yeah, John, I think we can end it there. So
Post
thanks for tuning in, guys.